Should the nonprofit organizations and religious organizations that accepted funding from Jeffrey Epstein after his 2008 conviction for child sex trafficking, should those organizations give the money back or redirect that money elsewhere? My name is Lori Styron. I'm the CEO and Executive Director of Charity Watch. So recently I was interviewed by the Jewish Telegraphic Agency on this topic, and I highly recommend reading this article. The investigative journalist went very in-depth about Jeffrey Epstein's ties to the philanthropic world and, the transactions that he kind of negotiated and his entrenchment into the philanthropic world. And it's a really, really interesting and enlightening article. And so I will post, if you give me just a couple minutes, I'll post something at the end of this video and in the comments where you can navigate to that article. I highly recommend it. But as to the question, I commented, and I was quoted in this article. I said a lot more things during the interview, but I was quoted during the article, and paraphrasing here, there is this moral question of, well, right, you're accepting money from this person, who might otherwise use it for bad things. So why can't we just take some of it from this person and we can use it for good, for our programmatic activities, to forward our philanthropic causes? And it kind of seems like, well, right, it seems like it is a gray area, right? It seems like this moral question of, like utilitarianism, like if everything turns out better in the end from having accepted this money, if you can make the math work, then why not? And the problem with that is that when you entertain professional or otherwise relationships with people who are involved in these types of crimes, you're basically lending them credibility and legitimacy to kind of continue operating how they're operating, right? Imagine being a victim of crimes like this and seeing, that Epstein was still able to rub elbows with powerful and respected people, to see that he was able to continue, flowing money to religious and nonprofit organizations, to help with work that may have ultimately done some good. But by doing that, by these organizations continuing to work with him and associate with him, essentially lending credibility to this person, essentially washing away the crimes to some extent. And imagine being a victim seeing this. I mean, my God, it's just really wrong. What I would say is that, for organizations that accepted funding from him before his conviction, I mean, you can argue what they knew when they knew it. Maybe they didn't know anything. Maybe they heard rumors, but they didn't think they were credible. Maybe they just didn't know anything about it. That's definitely more of a situation where you maybe give some grace there. But in terms of organizations that accepted funding from him after his conviction, I mean, these organizations really need to, and they've had a long time to do it at this point, look at their gift acceptance policies to understand when it is and is not appropriate to accept donations from people who are involved in criminal activities, especially of this nature. My goodness. The charity's board of directors is responsible for having a gift acceptance policy in place, or if they don't have one, for navigating situations like this. The board has to be involved when there's a large donation involved, navigating situations like this where a discussion needs to be had about whether or not to accept a donation. These organizations that accepted money from him, I would highly encourage them to look at what he gave to them, adjust it, for inflation, adjust the value to present dollar and in current day terms, and make a donation to a nonprofit organization that helps victims of this kind of abuse or that fights child sex trafficking. I think that that's the right thing to do. I'll stop there. I highly encourage you again to read the full article. This journalist really went into great detail and it's very interesting. Again, my name is Lori Styron. I'm with Charity Watch, and click on the link at the end of this video or in the comments to learn more. Thanks, everyone.